Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, Season 3, Episode 776.
From the sleepy suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio, there are assembled the world's two greatest podcast hosts, created from the cosmic legends of the universe. Sean Whalen.
Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast. I'm a big fan of variant colors. My love for Batman is that stuff. Let's talk some comics.
And Jim Segulin.
How's it going, eh? You know me and Superman, I'm really loving what they're doing. Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast.
Their mission, to discuss DC Comics in books, movies, and television several times a month in 1 to 3 hour episodes. And to serve all mankind.
Outstanding!
Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot, the Duke of the Sultan of Strategery, the Minister of Morgarder, and of course, the Elder Statesman of the podcast, Segulin.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we're going to be wrapping up our coverage of Superman Rise of the Superwoman, where we're going to be covering issues 21, 22, and the Superwoman Special. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
I threw in Superman in the search just to see what kind of options we've got going on, and there is an absolutely brilliant statue based off of the current movie out there. And I was like, oh my God, yes, please, thank you. It's one of the neat things about DCBS. It's not just comic books. It's great places for apparel, for statues. And again, Superman, the movie from 2025, based on the costume, based on that character. Yes, please. But also, if you do the searching, there's a lot of variant covers that they have available for you. So we've been talking a lot about some variants in this episode. If you're looking for variants, do the search on whatever character you want. This is a great way to find what DCBS still has in stock. So thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, they have their top sellers, and this is just a selection of books that people are jumping into. And on the DC side of things, they have DC Finest, Metamorpho the Element Man, trade paperback, $39.99 regularly, 42% off, only $23.19. With the popularity of the movie, obviously a great time to read about Metamorpho. Batman Superman, World's Finest hardcover, Volume 6, $24.99 regularly, 40% off, only $14.99. Batman Detective Comics, the new 52 Omnibus hardcover, $125 regularly, 40% off, only $75. That's a big savings. Superman the World hardcover, $24.99 regularly, 40% off, only $14.99. Lastly, they have these compact comics editions. Superman Birthright. It's an amazing story if you've never read it. This is the DC Compact Comics edition. $9.99 regularly, 40% off, only $5.99 for that amazing story. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support the show. Mr. Segulin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So, haven't read the books? You may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk some Superwoman.
Nothing like the handy-dandy electro claw for carving through metal doors.
Our discussion today is going to start with Superman number 22. The writer is Joshua Williamson, Dan Mora, Edwin Gelman, Laura Braga, Nicola, it's Cizmesija on art, Alejandro Sanchez and Rex Locus on colors, Ariana Mayer and Dave Sharp on letters, Dan Mora on the collected edition cover art, because I'm reading this through the collected edition. And, jumping back into this story, we're jumping right away to Dan Mora's art on the cover. And these covers really have had a lot of pop. It's funny, I've been so Superman happy lately. There's some variant covers to Superman Unlimited, number 1, the new book. One of them is Superman with James Gunn, on there. I like when they do those covers.
That's cool.
And they have a Jim Lee cover with it's Superman and Krypto from the movie.
Oh,
Jim Lee doing it. So I ended up grabbing that variant cover. Because what I've been doing is, and I mentioned this in a previous episode, I've been taking covers and framing them. It's, I've framed pictures I've gotten at with celebrities at cons and stuff like that in my basement. But I started taking a lot of these covers, signed and special covers and otherwise. Like I've got that World's Finest cover with William Shatner on it. And then there's 2 Mark Hamill variant covers that were out there. So,
Really?
yeah. So those aren't signed, but, I figure I can always, if I have the opportunity to meet the cover artists, I'm going to plop them out, take them with me, get said thing signed, put it back in. But they just look really cool in my man cave. So there's frames. I'm finding them on Amazon. They have tons of comic book frames. So if you're out there and you're like, hey, I kind of want to frame some of this stuff on the cheap, they're nice frames. Like there's a lot of nice frames that are out there that you can, based on your room your decor, you can get some really nice comic frames. The nice part about Amazon with those is you get the reviews. So you know if it's like good or not. And if you don't like it, you return it.
Yeah.
So, I just say, if you're out there and you've been thinking about framing some stuff, consider doing it that way, because you can take something, and get them in like little bundle packages. I buy them in like bundles of 5 and then just frame up some cool stuff. And they fit to the form factor of the comic so that, you're really only taking up the amount of wall space that the comic would. But they have ones with mats and things like that too. So depending on your preference, if you want to do something with a little bigger footprint. But what's leading me to that is just, I don't know, this book. Similar to what I was mentioning with the Superman Unlimited, this book has been rife with both the main cover and the alternate covers have been really, really nice on this title. It's got a lot of pop to it. Dan Mora's artwork, I don't know what it is about this particular series and, this particular arc. I'm really getting into his artwork. Not that I wasn't before, but there's something different now. I don't know if it's just maybe I'm becoming much more accustomed to the storytelling style, and it's this whole creative team. I just find that I've always liked Dan Mora's art. Now I'm like, I want to go back and reread some of the stuff that I've read previously with Dan Mora, just to kind of like, now that I'm clicking, kind of go, well, geez, I've been missing a lot here. I don't know. It hasn't been on my radar like it is now. There's a time when that happens, right? Where you click with an artist and like just something magical happens. Like, I don't know. We flipped that first page, man, and we're looking at Metropolis. Dude, he's making me, when we're looking at like tableware, I'm looking at that and marveling and going, my gosh, look at that spoon. I mean, there's reflection on it that like is perfect. I mean, the whole table setting looks real. There's something to that. I love fine details like that, because you flip from that into the sequence with, it's a date with Jimmy Olsen. And this date's pretty important because we're kind of establishing that and further that relationship. And, Perry White being there, but this relationship and the reason that she's, important to him and he's important to her needs to be really rock solid with where this is going right now. Because in this arc, we're going to have a whole bunch of shenanigans are happening.
A lot of stuff's about to happen. And I agree with you on your art comments. 100%. I was just nodding my head along like an idiot, not saying anything. But so let me throw out there, yes, I agree with you. And again, it's one of those things, like with me and artists, sometimes it's a creative team that makes me really click and say, wow, I really like this guy. And or it's a particular story that I'm really enjoying. And it dawns on me, it's not just the writer, that it's the art team that's creating. So with this story, it is the full creative team that's making me say, damn, I love this story.
Yeah.
So, I think that's part of why he's getting both of our attention now, is just because we're so loving this story that we're looking closer at it and we're noticing him. And again, you talk about the China and all that nice close dating. And then you go to the other page with the full spread with that massive armada.
Yes.
I always love when an artist can create this massive cityscape, and you've got your focus that he wants us to pull our eyes on that main ship. So that's where we're pulling our eyes, but there's still all this massive stuff going on around it. So it's a nice scale, pull your eyes in, but give you everything.
Yeah. Like you're saying, scale. I mean, the city's really there for the purpose of showing you just how big the armada is, to your point. And the details on the ship are the pieces that really stand out for me, too. It's the ability to shift between what is a very quaint date to then all of a sudden this big epic scale could be a battle. I like how we go from the threat of last issue to, we're sorry.
Yeah. We come in peace.
Yeah. You got a different idea of peace than we do.
Yep.
And I just love the banter on this. I like that they're the coming in peace is kind of, we're not really done yet. They're trying a different tactic, though, because really what they want is to get Superman and Superwoman on their side for, hey, this Doomsday dude, do you really want to deal with him? I mean, what a pain in the neck. Why don't you let us take care of that? We got that covered. And this is a very Superman conversation, right?
Yep.
Because I don't know, I'm going to be honest with you. Morally, I was thinking that through. I'm like, what would I do? Like, you're going to take my problem off of my hands. The guy that killed me, I died once and this thing keeps coming back and he's stronger. You're going to take this guy away and you're going to somehow like box him up so he doesn't die. But here's where I feel like Superman's a cut above and he makes you want to be better. Asking all the right questions because he's finding out, I don't know, you got a plan to do something more. What is that exactly? Like, what are you going to do with this? And how is that going to impact on things? Like, you're going to use Doomsday? How does that work exactly? And what does that mean for everybody else? I loved the dialogue of this and the fact that I was thinking it through going, would I say no to this? And I'm like, I don't know that I would ask. I feel like now, maybe after reading this story, I'd start asking the right questions. But I don't know that initially walking into it that I would have. And that's what I love about a good Superman story, because I feel like you can parallel this in your life in general. I'm not fighting Doomsday, but I'm saying, just at work and things like that. Pause for a second, breathe, ask a few more questions before you make that decision, because it could be a problem. And I love that. I mean, it's a really great part of this story.
And once again, continuing on the theme that we talked about last time, Lois Lane being Lois Lane.
Mm-hmm.
She was huge in this. And I love the fact that initially, our buddy here is pretty much ignoring Lois and just focusing all his attention on Superman because he's Superman. And it's not until she starts chiming in, he's like, oh, you don't understand. She's like, oh, no, my queen completely understands what's going on. And I love how Lois just throws it, kid, just, again, is Lois Lane. I've interviewed royal families that date back centuries. I've interviewed hardened criminals on death row. And often the piece that becomes crucial, that part I would always uncover, is what people don't tell me. And you are not telling us a lot. I love the fact that, again, it's Lois Lane being Lois Lane. She, once again, and she could have done this even without, having her superpowers. And actually, Clark is thinking this as well. That Clark's thinking the exact same thing Lois is thinking, because Clark's intelligent that way. Because you can tell just the way he's going. And as soon as Lois starts in, he's I'm going to let her have it because she's thinking the same thing I'm thinking. And I love the teamwork between these two. Why is she, his perfect, soulmate? Well, here you're seeing another reason, once again, why Lois Lane is awesome. And I love this.
I like that they don't always start off on the same page. And I don't mean that they're on the different pages. It's more of the thinking process is two different people processing what's being put before them. Because she asks the question, isn't this what we just talked about? Finding a way to take care of Doomsday? So she's putting on the table, like, maybe we should listen to this. And there's a point to that. So I feel like, they're like the best of both worlds with the two of them when they're together. And I love that as Superman is, saying things like, and you think you can handle that life? And, comeback of, and this is where you start to see the calmness crack. Unlike you, we have nothing to lose because Doomsday took our lives from us. What I loved about that picture, when you see that, he's standing up. You got that great visual right there. The lettering and the framing of the dialogue balloon and just everything really popped there. I am finding I'm paying a little more attention to lettering and choices that are made with lettering. And, and that's, I don't know how that works creatively as far as who makes the bubble decisions and what that looks like. But man, does that combination really just works to create a sense of emotion and mood that balance out the dialogue and, of course, the visuals that are just really, really good. That's where Houston, we have a problem, started to enter into my mind. And you start wanting our heroes to start cracking this down. I totally agree with you. The Lois had some just great dialogue moments. And facial expression on both Superman and Lois was really key because a lot was conveyed not just in how they were interviewing him, because that's what's happening here. Make no mistake about it. But also in their facial expressions and the changing mood that just weaves through all of this, which is great.
And Clark's got a little smirk on his face, when he's like, oh, my queen totally gets it. Go ahead, Superwoman. Just that little smirk on his face that they captured. I love that.
Yeah. And I like seeing the strength of Lois. It is funny. We're going to get a chance later to see the Lana version of Superwoman as we kind of make our way through this story. And I love when you've got the S symbol on, but there's something unique about you that brings you to the table. And Lois's line of questioning, Lois's way of handling that is not a way that Supergirl would do it, not a way that the other Superwoman would handle it. I like that. I just love that the natural feel is there. I'm really enjoying this ride with her, Superwoman.
Yes, me too.
I didn't know how much I wanted this.
Actually, it's funny if you had told me, oh, Superwoman's, Lois Lane's going to get Superman powers, the powers of Superman, I wouldn't have been like, oh, okay. I wouldn't have been excited for it. I would have been like, oh, okay, that'd be interesting. Now I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. I'm loving this because they're not getting rid of Lois Lane. Again, part of the thing we always love, those great Superman stories aren't just Superman, it's Clark, and same can be said now with Lois. And I always love when the bad guys' power levels get jacked up. All of a sudden, there's a sudden spike, and you're fighting now two people with Kryptonian powers, plus the rest of the super family that's on standby for this guy. Mm-hmm. So his bad guy can't just rely on a massive fleet. He needs to have some power levels, and I love when we finally see him, the Radiant, become the Radiant, and he's this massive ball of energy, that I don't know what else to call him, and I love that full page spread that we're looking at him, and he's just, sheer power. Again, to your point, doing some really cool stuff with coloring, doing some really cool stuff with the word balloons around his dialogue. I loved seeing this because that was once again, we have another, okay, we got a problem now.
Did you ever read Superman Doomsday Hunter Prey?
A very, very long time ago, to the point where I remember him having the weird looking costume, but I don't remember any of the details behind the story. I remember him having the sword and this and that, and he got tweaked up and all that, but I don't remember any of the story.
Yeah, I remember it. I remember loving it because it was prestige format, back in the day, and which you didn't get as many, obviously Batman was very common to get those prestige format stories. Superman, not so much so. It was a Dan Jurgens story. I'm glad they referenced it here because it actually got me jonesing to reread it. Maybe at some point in time we'll do it, because I think it'd be a fun story maybe to revisit going back to yet another Doomsday story. We can kind of maybe casually do a reread and decide, should we talk about this? I'm willing to bet the answer is going to be yes.
I've already set it aside, by the way, to read.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, because I remember that era. Well, here's the thing. The dialogue balloon, the editor's balloon drew me back to say, hey, we should probably look at this because I loved that era. That was a great Superman era. But the Radiant has got a really cool visual style. Very, very powerful. I get why Radiant didn't start here because this really does come off as threatening.
Yes. Well, yeah. Well, he's like, he throws out the aftermath, hear my call, it's time. Okay, that's the fight. It's time to throw down. But here's the thing I do love. Radiant flies off.
Yes.
And that for me, because fighting Superman and Superwoman's not surprise. That's not what they want. They're after Doomsday, and he's going after Doomsday. I love the fact that he's doing that and that Clark recognizes it, and Clark's got to go, I've got to intercept this. I've got to stop him.
I love that they recognized it before this.
Yeah.
Supergirl's already there on guard.
Yep.
Because they're like, hey, this is how we predicted things were going to go. I think they were hoping it was going to go otherwise, but I liked that they had the backup plan. Like, this is really, really good. It was a great use of Supergirl. I'm going to say again what I said last episode. I like this outfit.
Yes.
Supergirl's outfit's cool.
She's got a little bit of a badass look going on right now.
Yeah.
And I like that, As I said before, other costume, I guess, I get it. Classic looks nice and all that.
Sure.
No knocking on it. But this presence, this panel when she's standing there, flying right next to the contained Doomsday, she's got a badass look to her. I like that,
I like changing Supergirl outfits. To me, it just, I don't know, that character seems to work, that her costume just kind of organically changes based on the storyteller and things like that. I don't know. She's got a wardrobe. It's all right. I kind of like it. The further development of Lex Luthor, and we see here right now, see, this to me is, Houston, we got a problem. Lex is starting to remember things.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But, remembering Brainiac and that leading to a brilliant use of it, he's got a plan. And we get to see him go into Lex mode here. I love this Lex. So I'm hoping this takes a little bit, just because I'm really enjoying the casual evolution of Lex, and this idea, like him being called Lexi by Mercy. Like, we got some stuff going on. I'm really, yeah, and it was noticed. It's an interesting sort of thing going on here. But the Lex storyline being through this, they really are doing a good job of supporting characters. Radiant shows up and we get to see Supergirl be the opening salvo to the fight. He knocks her aside like she's a ragdoll. This is Supergirl, who at times in storytelling, there's certain elements of her powers, I believe still, that she's are a little bit more souped up compared to Superman, some of them.
Yeah.
At least that was that I know that was a thing. It's really, when you see Radiant do that, boy, does that establish something pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, again, massive power levels, and you gotta love that. But I still don't get. I understand he wants his vengeance, but why would he want to free Doomsday? Once again, I'm like, people, Doomsday's contained. If you want to kill him, I get it, but why take him out of the containment field? Yeah, kill him while he's locked in the containment field. Yeah, I don't. The strategy here is not. Again, he's not thinking. Does he want to kill Doomsday, or is he still? Are we still on the capture course, or do we just now we've just completely gone the other direction? I don't know. Yeah. I think. Well, he's like, because he said there will be no peace as long as Doomsday lives. So I don't know if he's thinking that that blast he does would kill Doomsday. He can't think that. He can't think that. How do you make him your obsession and you don't know that? I'm assuming he knew that just wasn't that wasn't going to be the end of things. That wasn't going to be enough to kill Doomsday. It's the opening salvo. Free. Yeah, all he did was set him free, and now he's got to fight him. And I'm like, dude, why do you want to fight the guy? Yeah. I get why he wants to kill him, and I understand. But for me, I'm like, okay, let's figure out a way to kill him while he's asleep. I got no problem with killing him while he's asleep, but if they tried to take the containment field, and then you have a thing where they're doing hot potato, where nobody wants to drop the Doomsday containment because they want to keep him contained. Yeah. That I'd be all for. This, the only thing, and the only reason why I don't have an issue with this going on is because this guy is not thinking. Yeah. He is 100% obsessed with vengeance, that he's not thinking clearly. He's not thinking logically like you and I are right now. Sure. And again, that fits the story, that fits him, that fits what his people have been through. So I don't have an issue with it, even though I sound like I might have one. I don't. He needs a hug. He just needs a hug. Yeah. I'm afraid of what would happen if I hugged him, though. So you first. Yeah. If you survive, then, I'll give him a wave. That's nice. That's dude. Wait. If I survive, you said you're going to give him a wave. Right. Yeah, I'm still not going to try it. Okay. I like it. Yeah. Too much energy going on there. No, I like it. I'll pass. I like it. Red Kryptonite Superman. The visual of that is awesome. Yeah. Especially now that I'm getting used to this idea when Clark gets really emotional, like he's got a little bit of a Hulk thing going on. And I like it. I like it. I like the visual of it. I like what it looks like. I like seeing the red energy around him that he's being affected by it. It's an emotional thing that he has to keep in check. And I really like how that's playing out and why, and how it just easily incorporates into the story. The super team use in this is really great. Seeing, Lois and Steel and the other Superwoman, they're, working with Mercy and everybody to try and keep Metropolis safe, because that's a piece that we often talk about with comics, is the amount of damage that happens in a city, right? Okay. So, Metropolis loves Superman, but man, there's a lot of destruction going on here. And it's funny. I wonder how all of these events with Lex's memory coming back are starting to help be a catalyst for that piece.
because it's a lot of stimulus around him that's going on.
Now, one, I completely agree with you. I love the fact the team is focusing on, again, they've got so much to focus on, not only keeping people safe, but they notice Superman's red levels are off the chart. Mm-hmm. And then you get the power of the page flip, a Superman and Doomsday team up. You got red-fired Superman fighting alongside Doomsday. I thought that was like, oh, that is something I never thought I'd see, and I absolutely love it.
That's another one that, like, I want it framed in some capacity. I think it's just a beautiful visual.
Oh, God, yeah.
Jimmy and his girlfriend in the quest for the picture of, Silver Banshee and the quest for the picture of Superwoman is really interesting. Her role is unique in this universe. So she's there, like, protecting Jimmy. Is she helping out? What's she doing? I really like her dynamic here. Where she's not really a hero per se. She's kind of fallen somewhere in the middle in what's going on with her. I like the choice.
Oh yeah. Well, to me, she's not trying to be a superhero but she's supporting her man. Mm-hmm. She's helping Jimmy out, and she's there not to fight the Radiant. She's there to get Jimmy in close to get a picture.
Right.
And I think that is kind of a neat way of bringing her into the mix, bringing Olsen into the mix. And once again, you've got the photojournalist who's going to dive into combat just to get that one picture. And he's obsessed with getting that picture of Superwoman. And I love that, we talked earlier how great it was, how they're doing the shell game with Superwoman to him and all that, and they feel bad for him and why they can't. And once again, we get a whole nother level of why you feel bad that she put, Olsen on the job of getting a picture of Superwoman.
Well, I don't think she put Olsen on the job. She encouraged what was already there. Jimmy wants notice, right? And Jimmy wants to be advancing his career. So she's throwing gasoline on the fire. That's for darn sure. But it's not her alone. Jimmy will tell you this, of course I know that's good journalism to get in there. The problem with this piece, and where Lois feels ultimately responsible for this, is the fact that she encouraged her. She could have discouraged him from it. Instead, she encouraged him, and this puts him right in the line of fire. This sequence is an example of how you build a sense of danger, because, this is one of those sequences where you're like, will they or won't they do something to Jimmy here? I really was afraid of where they were going to go with this, and I love that they did.
Yes. And I'll tell you, how awesome is it that as the energy blast is coming at Jimmy, time is trapped once again, and we get our time trapper back.
Yeah.
I love how he's like, I approached your husband before, but maybe you'll be a little bit more willing to listen. I love this ending of this issue. I love the fact that, once again, we're seeing the strategery of Doomsday as a time trapper.
Yes.
It's, again, brilliant usage of his powers, brilliant usage of this character of who he is right now.
And he just really wants the evolution. And there's so much of this that's almost a precursor to Time Trapper, where this is all going. So you start to see, elements of the storyline that eventually lead to potentially the Time Trapper, with the powers and things, with the elegant solution that goes in. I mean, this is the way you build a continuity loop, right?
Yeah.
Where, only in the end do we understand the beginning. And that part's really, really cool. This cover is really, really sharp.
Oh, yeah. 23, yes. I'm living.
Did you see the variant cover by Gilliam March? And I'm probably butchering the first name. It's G-U-I, and I love the artist. There's one of Superman just going, and it's him in his Clark Kent gear, just undoing the shirt, kind of thing.
Oh,
it's
nice.
It's a really, really cool visual. And there's something that I just really dig about just different artistic styles with this type of thing.
Well, and here's the funny thing. I have that variant cover because Superman's one of the titles I get paper.
Yeah.
And I get all the variant covers that DCBS offers. So when I'm buying my books, I'm also buying all the variants. So I do have it somewhere behind me.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, I've been doing that. And I keep telling myself,
they're great.
And I keep telling myself, I'm going to stop doing it. I'm going to stop doing it. And every month I still click on all the variants.
You know where you're going to love that? When you go to a con. Because
that
cover I'm talking about, I want that one signed.
Yeah.
I mean, you're developing an interesting library of comics that you could eventually have somebody sign and just have for you, as far as those pieces go. That is a thing now when I go to cons, and I understand why, because there's a whole market and I'm not disputing the market, but I mean, there's a whole market of people that like get books signed to throw them on eBay and make a profit off of them or some other, auction site and things like that. What they do now is, I've been at multiple cons now where when I ask for personalization, they wanted me to pay something for personalization. Sorry, not personalization. When I asked for a signature, they wanted me to pay something. But when I asked for personalization, they're like, "Oh no, you're just doing this for you. You're good."
Yeah.
So I get it. They're like, "Hey, listen, you're going to be making, $40-$50 off of my signature. I don't want to cut."
Yeah.
I get that thought process because we know those tables aren't cheap.
Yep, and I do the same thing when I get stuff signed, I do ask them, I'll ask one of whoever the first person to sign it, I'll ask them, hey, to Jim.
Yes.
I'll just tell them that. And like, oh, okay, and I've had, it's funny, I've had some pretty good interactions with some people after you personalize it because they know you're not doing this for sales. You're not doing this,
Yes.
and they realize, hey, and it's, and I've seen them deal with people who bring like, multiple titles and, they're just doing it to sell it on eBay.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just like, they just they're polite. They're not rude and they sign it, but there's no dialogue. There's no communication. Whereas with me, I'm having a conversation with them and I'm having a ball.
Yeah. That's the part. I do find that it's really, really funny. We do this every week, right? And we talk for hours about comics. A lot going on in my head when it comes to comics and everything, my own opinions, things like that. I am still adult when it comes to being in front of some of my favorite creators. Because you know what it is? I put too much pressure on myself. I think what it is I walk in and I want to be able to say that thing that's interesting. I did find the last con that I was at, I got a little better at it. Nice. Because I just started relaxing. I'm like, let me just be conversational, and just kind of relax. I like talking to people. So I've kind of like really tried to adopt that mode. I did find I had a lot more fun talking to creators. Then, I didn't walk away afterwards going, geez, I wish I didn't say that.
Well, there's some creators now I can have, normal conversations with. There are still some that I get all,
sure.
And I remember last time I had Jeff Johns sign something. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I remember walking away going, I'm just a stupid fanboy. That was stupid. And I was like, I can't even remember what I said, but I was just something like, you're awesome, kind of like the old Chris Farley bit.
Yeah,
I did that.
And I'm real guilty of that, as far as with creators and things like that. Tom Zoller, who I've talked to many times.
Yeah.
I walked up and he had this really cool, it was a Super Friends type of motif that he created. And I was like, oh, I really want that. And, I had to get a unique like frame made for it because it was long and, had like the entire Super Friends. Yeah.
Nice.
It was a cool thing that he did. But, as I was talking to him, I'm a big fan of his work, and there's so many things I could have said about his work, and even just casual, he's trying to have casual conversation, just because at this point in time, I've seen him at a number of cons. He's just trying to be that guy, and I really appreciated what he was doing. I wouldn't let it work. I walked away afterwards. I'm like sitting here, I'm like, dude, just chill out and relax.
Yeah.
It's a respect to the work that usually does that, but I did find last time I went to a con, a little more of a deep breath, a little more just relax, just be me. And it works so much better because, especially with the fact I'm finding I'm very interested in how cons are going for them, just what work they've got currently going. If there's somebody doing that piece, being able to just share what I liked about a work. I met the lead creator of Shadow Man, which is one of my favorite series. And I was talking to him and it was Bob Hall. And I really had a great conversation with him because I just relaxed and started asking him questions about Shadow Man. They were just genuine questions I had, not ones where I was like, I'm going to go in with that zinger question because this is going to be the question that's going to blow his mind. Nah, I just asked the questions that I wanted to ask and I was done with it. Yeah. And it led to such a much more organic conversation. So the message of this one, if you put your foot in your mouth like I do, just relax and just be conversational. Ask the questions that you want to ask. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. When you relax and just enjoy the experience, it's usually 9 times out of 10, it's a much better experience. Anyway, looking at this issue of Superman now, we start off with our frozen Jimmy Olsen and him kind of stuck in this phase of getting ready to take the picture of, here's the question I've got. Did he get the picture?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm going to say no, just because I see, it's, looking at that close up on him, he's still looking through the lens. So I don't think he actually clicked the button. I think he's still lining up the shot.
But even when you take the shot, you don't look away from the lens. So I don't know. I'm curious. It's just one of those things. I didn't really think about it admittedly till this moment. I'm like, did he actually get the shot? I'm wondering because this is Jimmy.
Yeah.
He's a seasoned photographer.
Hey, there may be a picture on that camera. We don't know.
And how does that work with the other pieces that have been put in place by Mercy and all of that? But the debate between Superwoman, Lois Lane, and Time Trapper here is really, really good because it's different. I really like that now he's really talking her through why she should want to potentially side with him. And I like that they teased us on this one. They're going, is Lois buying into this? As we're going through. And I really liked how they did that whole piece until she's kind of like, yeah, no, you're right. I did cry when Superman died. Who didn't? But those tears were not just about his death. They were because he died doing something he hated, something he never wanted to do, take a life. And I like that she's poked apart this piece. She's like, this whole conversation and everything that you're kind of doing right now has made me realize something. You need us. And right away, it starts to poke the holes in everything that he's doing, the motivations, all that kind of piece. This is a Lois Lane conversation. Lois Lane staring down Doomsday, Lois Lane staring down Time Trapper, and she is taking him to task, and it is really, really great writing.
Oh, God, yeah. And I love Doomsday throughout this, because, again, and the ending, when she calls him out, he's like, oh, okay, your loss. I gave your husband a few extra moments, to save you from Doomsday attack. I will not grant you the same mercy. I love the fact that Doomsday, she, because, again, like you, I'm like, yes, Lois. Here's where it kind of came to bite her, to get her because she didn't have enough time to save Jimmy.
Yes.
And I loved that. And again, I was sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, when you're first reading it, you're just like, Jimmy, no, or they can't kill off Jimmy. And the energy that hits, I'm like, holy crud.
Yeah.
What just happened? And I love they spent a full page and they show the camera breaking. So who knows if the image got saved?
Sure. If there even is an image.
If there is an image, I don't know. But that for me was just a brilliant page because you have the heavy blue energy around the impact. You've got Lois like Jimmy, and then they show the camera breaking. Again, what is one of the key pieces of who Jimmy Olsen's identity is? That camera. And we see the camera breaking. Great way to show him actually getting really jacked up without physically showing the gratuity of it.
Yeah, man. I like the red K stuff. I like that Superman brought himself out of it.
Yeah.
Just because of the nature of the situation, he's like, stop. No, this isn't me. I can control this. I loved seeing Superman work his way out of it because in that moment he had to. Because Lois isn't available to do that right now because of what she's going through. So I like how Superman had to step up and do it himself. I like seeing Soup's, his strong moral conviction and being able to do those things. You just know that was a battle.
Yeah. And again, we all lose our temper. We all have those moments. And after you have that initial lash out, you've got that moment where you can either embrace the anger or you back off of it and you control the anger. And I love seeing, Soup just calm down and recontrol it, but also kind of like Time Trapper going, hey, maybe I chose the wrong champion here. I got a guy here who wants to kill Doomsday. I love that, little swerve,
Yeah. Well, and that's really what he wants. He wants to be killed. And he wants Superman's rage. He's like, I want the next level. He wants next evolution, no matter what it takes to get to next evolution. And it's an interesting drive because look where he's at now. And he's like, you know what? I want to see what I can be. And that part was great. Lex Luthor saying, Lena, help me find a suit. It's one of those situations where I'm like, yes, it's cool. ? Because I'm loving the sequence and I want to see Lex do that, but I'm knowing what this is meaning.
Yes, its meaning is Lex back, and
on some level.
On some level. And I do love seeing Lex and Lena working together. And I do love the fact that, we've got Luthor back. Because I always said if these two could ever actually truly work together, there's nothing they couldn't accomplish.
Yes.
We would have a utopia on the planet if Lex Luthor and Superman actually could work together. So, you have these moments where you're like, is this going to go horribly wrong or is this going to go horribly great? I don't know. And I do love seeing Lex, improvise, adapt, and overcome. So him saying, find me a suit, it still, to me, looks like this is still the good Lex, the nice Lex. He's just remembering stuff. So are we going to get back the other Lex? I don't know yet.
The interesting part with Lois on this piece, where especially when Mercy's supposed to be ready to help with the shot. Yeah. Lois is like, hang on, Superman's still in there. And I like that Lex's reaction's an interesting one. Then hurry, Superwoman, get going. I'm convinced if she doesn't, he's going to have to go anyway in his mind.
Yeah. Well, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one.
Yeah.
So, and I do love that, Lois flies in, gets him out. He's like, now hit it, I do love the fact that we had this and we still didn't know what exactly his plan was. That's the thing I love about the storytelling. We just have Lex saying, I've got an idea.
Yeah.
And he's just doing it. And he's got some big old gun that I'm like, you have no idea what is that big old gun going to do. I love the fact that it's going through. And I love the look on Mercy's face throughout this. She's like, you got it, boss. He's back to being the boss. He's back to being in charge of things. He's large and in charge. Luthor is back. We're coming back in her eyes. And I love seeing all these little bits. And then we get the big reveal what that big gold gun is. I was like, I'll be honest, I didn't think that. It's a Brainiac gun, bottling the Armada and Doomsday all in one.
And slowing time.
Yeah.
And I like that the reference is, what impact is that going to have on Doomsday? And I think we've seen it.
Yeah.
Which I love that, this story starts to, build the building blocks. It may not mean it's the next evolution, but it's certainly going to be one of them as we're going through because of this. I think this is one of the reasons he becomes Time Trapper.
Yeah. Well, you think about it. It's, he's in a bottled city, time slowed. If he dies in a slowed time configuration, that could give him temporal powers.
Sure.
And that could be the next evolution on Doomsday. And I'm like, that's kind of neat. I like that.
Yeah. Lena does the reveal because they're starting to argue about whether the handling of it was a mistake or not. Did Luthor do the right thing? And, Luthor's kind of like, what other options do we have here? And he's not wrong. It's an interesting debate where I see both sides of it, where I see why Superman's questioning it, but I also see Luthor's point of, tell me what we're going to do. How are we going to make this work? And I really liked how that played out.
And again, we're starting to see more of Lex come back.
Yeah.
Because the old Lex, when they're like, oh, sorry, Superman, the previous, no memory Lex would have been very timid. And he has been very timid towards Superman. This Luthor's standing up a little bit to us. He's like, what other options do we have? I saved us. There's always a, cost. He's like, Superman's like, there's always a cost. I love that, Lex is standing up for his decision.
Lois's reaction is really strong. That's that visual sequence of her just standing there, humbled by the situation. I get that. So you got these great powers, and it's you make a mistake, or did she make a mistake? And I'm not sure on that one. I'm not overly critical of Lois on this one. She did what she had to do, and it's a tricky sort of piece because even Clark's consoling her, he's like, "We can train more," things like that. I'm like sitting here. I don't know. What more training can you have that's going to help you in that particular situation? I mean, it's a time trapper was a variable. Jimmy was a variable as far as trying to come in. The only piece that I guess we could be critical on is you were stoking the flame of Jimmy wanting to take the picture, but would that have mattered? Would Jimmy, because Jimmy would still be looking, it's what Jimmy's job is. So you have a choice. You either acknowledge that Superwoman exists and that the paper should be seeking out a choice, or you don't. And eventually people question why not, because it's the story of the century.
Yeah.
So everything works there.
She had to do it. But you understand this. And again, it's one of those great moments, it's, with great power comes great responsibility, and I love seeing that in other books, whenever other books bring that in. That's a classic thing with comic books, and I love the fact that Lois is looking at this, and again, great line from her. I treated these powers like it was all fun and games. But it's not. And Jimmy got hurt because of that.
Yeah.
And I love just that realization. That's part of her guilt. It's, the people talk about survivor's guilt on tragedies and stuff like that. And, it's, you see it constantly. So again, having this pulled into the book was awesome. And one of the things I also especially loved about this was they're talking, when Jimmy's in the hospital, he's in a coma, but doctors said he'll recover, but his hands will take some time. Now, what is the one thing? Two things that a photographer needs. They need their eyes and they need their hands. They're taking away Jimmy Olsen's hands. So he's going to still have his photographer's eyes. He can still see that picture, but he won't have the ability to take the shot. That is going to be an absolute horror for Olsen. And again, I don't want bad things to happen to the guy, but I am so looking forward to the story where they start going into this, because this is not over yet. This is not done. This is just the beginning of these problems, and we're going to see down the line Jimmy recovering from this. And those are the kind of stories that I'm really looking forward to.
The whole dark future thing that she keeps referring to, she's like, where this dark future that Doomsday was talking about, Time Trapper was talking about, are we on that pathway? Is this bringing to that? And I love that we get this cool epilogue for this story involving Zod, bringing him in. I don't know why this wasn't on my radar. It should have been, as far as that piece goes, but his losing his powers. And I love that there's, the alien that's with him is basically saying, don't worry, I'm not going to say anything. And Zod's kind of like, of course, and then crushes that. I mean, just a very, very Zod moment that works here. This Legion that we see at the end of this it's a bad guy Legion, right?
Yeah. Well, they're corrupted by Darkseid. They've got the Omega symbol on their chest.
Right.
So I don't know if this is the Legion having been corrupted.
Yeah.
Or because that's Saturn Girl, Lightning Lad, and
Cosmic Boy.
Thank you. I always draw a blank on him. That's who that is. Now they're adults, because you can see by the their facial expressions and the way they're drawn. So I'm taking it this is the Legion of superheroes, grown up, corrupted by Darkseid.
Yeah.
And that was like, oh crud, that's the really nasty future coming up. That's not good.
Yeah. So I like that it says to be continued this summer, but be here next month for Superman versus Mercy. I like that, we're building to bigger storylines, but at the same time, we're going to keep this book more intimate. So Superwoman's powers came from Zod, right?
Yep. Yes, they came from Zod.
Yeah.
Those are Zod's powers that Superwoman has. I love that. Yeah.
So we get the Superwoman special. Let's talk about this one a little bit. And it was interesting when we first started recording this. I think, you had the order that you read this in, the Superwoman special you read first. And I do think I understand chronologically we probably should have read it first or should have talked about it first. But we went along with the trade collection, as far as what direction we went in with this piece. I love this issue. There's so much I love about this issue because of the fact that it really is Superwoman focused, gives us kind of a flavor for kind of where she's at and what it's like for her to be discovering that she has powers. And that part's great because we got her when she's tapping out this story and she's got this writer's block that's going on, which is she's being impacted by the fact that now she's an editor-in-chief and now, she's, it's being spread very, very thin. So while she's doing that, it leads to this great conversation with Kara and Lana where they're like, all right, do you want to, do you need to talk? We were here for you, those type of pieces. And I like that she's like, hey, do you want to go out on patrol?
Yeah.
And the eyes light up.
Yeah.
I loved that. I think that's really, really cool. Adding to that whole thing that like, having the powers is kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I think, this all took place before the other stuff.
Oh, agreed.
And because one of the reasons I read this one first was because this was how they listed them on the network that it's, the app. This is, the app. Thank you.
Yeah.
How they
what network you talking about?
You know what I mean? On the app, because they had a separate story, like the rise of the Superwoman.
Yes.
And they had it, all the issues together for you. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So, and I
think in the trade, what they did is they put the rise of the Superwoman story arc first, and as a bonus, they threw in this Superwoman special. I think when you're doing a collected edition and you're looking for the story of the rise of the Superwoman, you're probably not going to want to start with the special. Chronologically, you're 1000% correct. This happened first. And I think there's a point to saying you probably want to read it first. But I think from a collected edition where you're trying to meet that audience that like reads the trade, you're probably like, I'm going to read this first. And this is like a Superman. Remember when they had those 5th week books that were out there? And we're going to also include the book that would have been the 5th week book back in the day.
Yeah.
For that purpose. So I think that's why they did it this way. And I think it makes sense as far as getting through this story. You want to know more about the background of Superwoman. So I think the pacing kind of makes sense.
Oh, but definitely.
What do you, I keep forgetting about the Lana Lang Superwoman. What do you think about her?
I like Lana Lang Superwoman. And I like the fact that Lois and Lana had a brief conversation with, hey, you go with the whole Superwoman thing? She's like, there's a zillion Green Lanterns. I think we can share. And again, I'm always one of those big proponents of every hero needs to have their own code name, have their own separate thing, like call Lana Flamebird or, and call, Lois Superwoman and, with the different flashes, with the different, with the 2 Supermen we have. But for some reason, when it comes to the super family, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with 2 people being called Superman. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with, 2 people being called Superwoman. I don't know if it's just if it's just my love of the character. Normally I would be against this, but for some reason it fits with this family, having multiple people called Superman, having multiple people called Superwoman. And you've got Supergirl, who's her own groove. You've got Superboy, Connor, who's his own groove. So I like how they've got each one have their own play. And eventually part of me would like to see Connor be called something other than Superboy and just like I'd like to see Lara called something other than Supergirl, just because of the girl and the boy commentary.
Kara?
But
You want? No, I just no.
The only reason is this the girl, Supergirl, and Superboy.
No,
they're adults, and that's.
I get it, but I disagree.
Yeah,
I don't know. And wait, by the way, it's fine that you don't, and you want to see that. So let's validity off of that piece. There's certain characters where I agree with that. Like I liked when Tim Drake became Red Robin. I might be a minority on that, but I kind of liked the idea of him developing a different identity and like, kind of graduating into that role when Damian was going to be Robin, like let's give him a unique identity. So I thought that was very, very cool when they did that. And I normally like that advancement for every reason that you're stating, because it was kind of like the whole Nightwing thing, right? Which that part works. And I enjoy that. For some reason, Kara is Supergirl to me. And I get it. Everything you're saying is correct, where you're like, but she's a woman now. Like, at what point in time we can acknowledge that, let her grow up a little bit? I'm not against that. I think it's the part of me I've been reading it so long, like, watched her die in Crisis and that kind of thing. I don't know. Supergirl's maturity is not in question to me. She's Supergirl, doggone it. She's going to stay Supergirl because of it, but yet everything you said's correct. Yeah. So, and would I hate it if they gave her a new name? No, but I would long for the time when she went back to the original.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I'm not going to die on this hill because, in the Supergirl TV show, I love the fact that, they explained away why she's called Supergirl. There's nothing wrong with being called a girl, and I love how they acknowledged and empowered being called a girl is not diminishing for her. So if they never change her, I don't have an issue. I'm not going to say, oh my God, they need you. No. Would I like to see it? I think it'd be kind of neat to give her a completely separate code name, not with the word super in it, a completely different code name. And she still would have the big red S on her chest because, she's part of the family, or, arm sleeve or some acknowledgement that she's part of the family, just some other name that's not super blank. That's where I'm at more.
I always want Lightning Lad to be Lightning Lad, even though like in the beginning of this, he's clearly Lightning Man, but right. A Cosmic Man, I don't want any of that. But certain characters I'm okay. Like Nightwing, I don't want him to go back to being Robin.
Right.
Which is
never.
Which he's not Robin Boy, but it's the same concept, right? It's, it's more of a, you outgrow that gimmick eventually. So I don't know why I'm okay with it on some, and other ones I'm like digging my heels in, and I know I'm doing it. So it doesn't make any sense because one says that I'm 1,000% in agreement with what you were saying. The other says I'm not, and there's no rational reason for it. But it is what it is.
Exactly. Oh yeah. And again, I'm not gonna die on this hill fighting because I'm okay with.
Here's what we already established earlier in the episode. You're gonna let me die on the hill.
Oh yeah,
because you're gonna watch me die on the hill and then realize it's not for you and back away.
Hold on. Let's be completely honest with each other.
Okay.
You'll be fine. I won't be, with the way every time we've ever had a problem in society, in going through life, I'm always the one who gets hurt, not you.
I almost drowned. Yeah. So it's, these things happen. It's not like I've had a heart stent. I've almost drowned. It's not like life's ignored me. You've had your share of mishaps. I will agree with you on that piece. And and you're still here, which is which is a very good thing, because this show would be very boring very fast without you. This whole sequence with them, I love the intimacy of this. I think good writers know when to write intimacy of characters, and I liked seeing her hang out with them. Because I think what's really just as important of this, it's not just Lois that have to be written well. Supergirl and the other Superwoman have to be written as well, too. And this leading to her starting at the beginning and kind of taking us back to what happened with Waller. And this is where you're right that, this is a great thing to read first. Like this special, if you read Absolute Power and haven't done anything in Superman in a while, it's a pretty good special to kind of get brought up to speed. Kind of what's happened a little bit in Superman's world since then, and how Lois gained powers, and we're still not sure where they really came from. Why she donned that suit. She's like, I'm Lois, I want to go take care and help my husband. This suit was a way for me to have an arsenal that made me, Waller hurt my son. She hurt my husband. So I was ready to do business, and she was flying in, and I loved the mystery of this. Things happened to her. And there's, this lightning strike, and, she all of a sudden collapses, and we don't know. She wakes up at the Daily Planet. We don't know what's happened to her.
Yeah. And again, I liked how she was saying how she laid down the groundwork that this armor was connected to the Amazos somehow.
Yep.
So when they lost their power, when all that whole power swap thing that Waller did when they took down the Amazos, that's why it affected her. I thought that was a really neat thing to make sure they very clearly stated that, because not all of Lex's armors was connected with the Amazos. That one was.
Yeah. Hey, dude, this shot when she's on the Daily Planet rooftop and looking out at the Supercore.
Yeah.
Woo, that's beautiful. That is, it was a great choice to put that shot in there. And then she happens to be the witness of Jimmy and his girlfriend sneaking up to the rooftop thinking that like nobody else is going to be there. And she's like, I know that you and Clark were up here, and I really liked how all of that played out.
Oh, God, yeah. And again, little cutesy bits and little funny moments that they're bringing into this.
I agree.
It's nice storytelling.
I like when they keep flashing they do the flashback and kind of complete it, but then have the dialogue, the narrative dialogue, fill in some of the blanks. Like, well, there was some mystery spinning out of that. Like, what really happened to that suit of armor? How did I really wind up there? This is what people are telling me happened to it, and I'm not entirely sure. So that part was really cool. Then we flap back to, her being at work and the first realization of, oh, wait, I got powers when she lifts up the couch. And I love that, I almost called him Beck Bennett. When Steve, comes into the room and going, hey, what are you doing in here, Lane? Because that crash would have been a significant one. I loved that discovery. It's a really, really laid out piece. Of course, what would you do in that situation? Well, you start going to some of the experts. And Supergirl and Superwoman asked the great question here. Why didn't you come to us?
Yeah.
I was glad that they asked that, right?
Yes.
Lois's answer was a good one, but it would have been weird if they didn't ask that question. And that's another, we mentioned in the last episode, I was talking so much about attention to detail. Those details are really important because they, again, make this feel real, make it feel thriving. Like, oh, I would ask that question too. Good question.
Yeah.
And I dig that kind of stuff.
And I do like the Lois's answer.
Yes.
I do like the fact that the reason Lois went to Mercy was, one, they work for Lex. She understands this stuff, but also she earned their trust.
Yeah.
She was risking her life going back and forth between Metropolis and the Fortress during the Waller occupation. I loved, that, we get this moment where Lois is like, no, we can trust Mercy. Mercy's with us now. And I love that explanation, because if Mercy,
for
now, I know things keep going with Lex.
I'm going to say, I'm going to say now it's, sorry, Lois, I think it's for now.
For now. I know. I love, and again, it's like, holy crud.
I love with the desk thing. I like Lois's way, because Mercy's talking about this great desk that we got that was Waller's. And I like that Lois uses that the opportunity to say, listen, you are dismissing me here. I'm going to get your attention right now. And I like Mercy's reaction was so great. I see. Lena, cancel all my appointments, please. Something's come up. I really liked that whole sequence and how it played out. When she's talking to Mercy, one of the things that comes up that I really, really enjoyed was this idea of Lois is human. We've talked about this in this story arc exploration. We don't know what this means. Well, these powers eventually burnt out. We don't know what the source is of these powers. What does this mean for you long term? If you're using certain types of powers, do they burn out quicker? Do you want to test burning them out? Do you want to save it for a rainy day? All those kinds of things that are being asked here are, I think, real logical questions. I would hate that because and I love that. I like Lois's reaction because I think she matches a lot of us. In the sense, I'd be like, I don't know, I want to get out and play with the toys. Like, come on, now, like, come on, Mercy. Okay, yes, I get your point. We're right, dangerous. Like, I don't know, I might lose the powers. Okay, and all that kind of thing. Like, we gotta go fly.
Well, and again, I love Lois is initially listening to that, and she's initially, don't use these powers. And I love the fact that this is all happening when Clark, during the Action Comics stuff. He's off planet. We'll just say, because I don't want to spoil anything, but it's an amazing Action Comic story. So Lois doesn't have Clark to talk to. And as she's going down the street, action's happening, gunfire, Metropolis PD's got their backs up against the wall, up against some superpowers. The captain's just about to get, shot, and Lois jumps in and pushes him out of the way, and then, all the guys are down. What happens? Like, oh, there was a whoosh that happened. Oh, it must have been Superman.
Yes.
I love that Lois did the blur, how Clark used to do it, back, in the Smallville episodes, where he was just a blur and he just was known as the blue blur and this and that before, no one ever saw him, so Lois did one of those moments. For me, that made me cheer and laugh. I was like, yes.
The glinting bullet on the ground.
Yeah.
Was such a cool sequence. And I loved how they did that, where she just sees the glint and stoops down and grabs it. We don't really know what it is yet. Then when you flip the next page and she's holding in her hand, like in her, duh.
Yeah.
Of course that's what it was. And I like that.
And I like the fact that that Lana's like, what? That's how you found out you're invulnerable? Mm-hmm. That for me, it's in Lois is like, I know. I keep it with me to remind me how dangerous this is. That right there was a great Lois Lane moment where she's like, yes, that was stupid of me. And this is my reminder. I think that for me was an absolutely brilliant, a brilliant usage of Lois.
The way she told Clark and that whole sequence was brilliant. It was very Lois. I like that it wasn't like the Superman sequence. It was something very different here. And I like that she, the glasses were just for dramatic effect and things like that. But her revealing that she's Superwoman, and I like Clark's reaction. Okay. And, she's standing on the ledge going, you seem confused. And she just flies.
Yeah.
And she's looking there at him, and you don't have to catch me this time. And, I like this part that she did. I know you got questions. This all needs to wait right now. Just fly with me. Yeah. That page spread with the two of them flying is breathtaking. That is a really good looking page.
Oh God, yeah. And they're dancing.
Yes. So cool.
It was that, because they are dancing through the sky. And I'm like, that is absolutely brilliant. I've said before in prior episodes, one of my favorite scenes that we have with Lois and Clark is, when the whole death and return of Superman, throughout the story, there's this little bird tapping on Lois's window. And she's like, that stupid bird. And then finally the thing where she throws it open and she just sees the big red S. And then the next scene, they're up in the sky, swirling around, kissing, and everything's just wonderful. Yeah. That is one of my favorite scenes in a comic book. This is now up there with that because it's got that same magic to it. Sure. It has that same kind of moment. And as I said, they're dancing. I can just picture in my head them doing multiple swirls and spins and stuff like that. I think that this was an absolutely brilliant piece.
Have you read The Atom Project at all?
No, I haven't.
Which is spinning out of Justice League. It focuses on the atoms. Mr. Terrific, it's great to see him here. This makes sense, what Clark's doing. Clark's like, okay, you can't talk to Mercy, I get that. Let's talk to my people. Yeah. Let's get you in front of Mr. Terrific, the Atoms. I mean, these are top tier people that need to be talking to, and I really liked that choice and how it played out. It made a ton of sense. And then Clark's putting her through some tests. Like, let's find out a little bit more about the nature of your powers. And he puts her through everything. And she's like, I passed all of them. And that had been something that was eye-opening for Clark to know that his wife could do all of these things. And I really am enjoying that aspect of this, that, we did see at the beginning of this storyline, the fact that they'd had adventures before Rise of the Superwoman and what those things look like. I like that this fleshes some of that out.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. And again, I loved bringing in the whole super team when we get our first appearance of Superwoman.
Yeah.
The full team. I love the fact that they didn't tell John before any of that.
Did I miss a meeting?
I love that. And the fact that she just came in and knocks on and saves him. That was absolutely brilliant. Had me laughing. But also the smile on Lois's face throughout all this, it really does show how much fun she is having with this. And, you think back to it, if you and I suddenly had these powers and we're suddenly doing this stuff, we would have that goofy grin on her face as well.
Yes. Yeah, I like that she represents us in this.
Yeah.
And, they were talking through the writer's block, and I like how, they're like, I kind of know why you got it. You're not being honest with yourself. After years of being on the sidelines, you don't want to admit that you love having these powers. And, this kind of makes some clarity for her. She's like, oh, no, you're right. And I love when you have friends that can do that. We've all been in you and I've both been in situations before where we've had to have deep conversations. And, when you have friends that have that unique way of pointing out things that you need to hear in a way that's inviting, knowing just the right thing to say, because they know you and they know instead of pushing your buttons, opening your mind and that type of thing. This felt so authentic in that piece. I just loved it.
Yes.
Her finally writing that story at like 50 miles an hour and then flying off, and we get to see her with the dove flying with her. I thought was just a really cool sort of ending to this issue, because it does lead to...
Yeah, they found the armor. I love the fact that Mercy did lie to Lois saying we couldn't find the armor. No, they did find the armor, and they found other problems with it, because not only was it connected to the Super Amazo network, this was the space suit.
Right.
So this was looking outside of the planet. So where do they pull the powers from? And I love the fact that then the Adams and team are also looking at this, saying, "Hey, all of the superpowered people have their powers.
Yeah.
Where did Lois get her powers from?" And the final page is Zod. I love this. When I first read this, I cheered out loud because I knew, oh, Lois got her powers from Zod. Oh, that is perfect. That is so awesome. This was something that was absolutely wonderful. And again, the look on Zod's face, and it's just the beginning. I'm like, oh, we're going to get some cool Zod stuff.
The trade, if anybody listening to this has it, it has some cool variant covers, and some of the variant covers are ads. Like one is for amazing heat vision and glasses that you can wear, be like Superman, leap tall buildings into single bound, and it's, sneakers with springs attached to them. It's just a really, really cool sequence of events when they've got that. They had a third ad. What was the third one? Oh, it was, the third ad was the incredible hearing headphones, sonic amplifiers, where you can hear like Superman does. It's just really, really good. I'm glad we did this. This is a good story. I'm anxious for the Zod story.
Yes, me too.
Like I know we're going to talk about that, because I'm chomping at the bit for that. I don't remember the last time we read Zod. I'm talking about a Zod in contention with Superman. There's been some books that Zod's been in, but not like this in a while. So it's going to be very interesting to talk about this.
There they are, all alone except for that old character.
RagingBullets.com is our show website, that's where you can find information on upcoming episodes and current releases. We link into Twitter/X. We also link into a Facebook fan page. We are proud to be part of an amazing Facebook group community, and I want to thank everybody for posting in there and all the support actually on us beginning this season 3 and heading back to our roots with the DC Comics Fan Podcast. Really appreciate people sticking with us. I feel reinvigorated, if that makes any sense, and I really appreciate the support. We have been trying to put back up new branding just to kind of let people know what we're doing right now and hopefully get people excited. I'm looking forward to a great year of talking DC Comics again. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segalin, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
Remember, DCBS is not just a great place to get some comic book deals. They do have statues, apparel, and whatnot. And right now, there's Superman the movie, the 2025 version, a brilliant statue based off of the costume and or the actor based on our new Superman. Plus, if you do a search using Superman or any of your favorite characters, you can find some of the variant covers that are out there that DCBS still has in stock. So if you're hunting for that particular cover, you're hunting for that particular variant cover, DCBS is a great way to find it. So thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, the top sellers section is really a great way to see if are there any books that people are really liking right now that I missed. A big one's not a surprise to me is DC Finest Metamorpho the Elephant Man trade paperback, $39.99 regularly, 42% off, only $23.19. Batman Superman World's Finest hardcover, volume 6, $24.99 regularly, 40% off, only $14.99 for a hardcover. Batman Detective Comics, the new 52 Omnibus hardcover. This is a $125 book that's 40% off for only $75. Superman the World hardcover, 40% off, only $14.99. And I love this now, these DC Compact Comics. Superman Birthright, the Compact Comics edition, $9.99 regularly, 40% off, only $5.99. There is really something for every budget and everybody's collectible needs over at DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. I want to thank them for continuing to support our show. The About Us section of our show websites where you can connect with us on our personal social media and gaming platforms. You can hear me bi-weekly on Is It Jaws, which is a film review podcast. We will be back next week with Black Canary, Best of the Best. See you then.
Bye.
When Sean and Jim decided long ago to do a weekly comic book podcast show, they started slowly, then grew strong. To listen now, you can't go wrong. The Raging Bullets Comics Podcast Show.